been a blessing to you guys. We continue to hear testimony over, week after week. So it really is a blessing. If you have a testimony, I want to go ahead and encourage you guys, like we've mentioned before. If you have testimony, don't be ashamed to go ahead and share it. Remember that this platform is not just for the blessing that, God gives us in a word for you, something to go ahead and uplift you. It's also for your voice to be heard, for you to be able to share your testimony, because many times the testimony that you have, is going to speak volumes to other people. Like we always say, there's nothing special about Jay Mejia. There's nothing special about me. God uses us the same way he can use anybody in reality, that's willing, that has a heart that's willing to do it. But sometimes people just tend to gravitate a little bit more toward others that, that look to be just like them. So if you're like in the comments and everything like that, people tend to gravitate to that a little bit more. So we just want to encourage you, if you have something, please go ahead and share it. We want you guys to be a blessing to other people as well. So I see Carol is with us tonight. Jay is with us tonight. God bless you guys for rocking with us, tonight. Like I said, Jay Mejia will be with us here in a little bit. And as we get ready to get started, I'm going to go ahead and get things started while he gets ready to join us. As we wait for a few more to join, I want to give you guys a topic for today. We're going to focus just as an overall topic, your children, or really anybody in general. This is kids, adults, teenagers. This really goes, in the whole panorama of everyone. But what we're consuming on our devices, what we're consuming on our iPads, our phones, kids especially, many times what they're consuming as they're on these devices. A lot of times your kids, your nieces, your nephews, everybody that you care about that might be younger, a lot of times it's easy to go ahead and use that as the babysitter. Sometimes it might be babysitting you. When you're stressed out, what do you go to? Do you end up going to your phone? Do you end up going to your, to your laptop, to your iPad? What do you go to go ahead and consume information on? And we're going to go a little bit in on that. Jay Mejia just gave me the topic. You guys know we really don't communicate those topics. We share that week after week. We typically don't communicate the topic with each other. Tonight was a little bit different. As we were about to start, he gave me the topic. And so I'm not sure exactly where he wanted to go with it, but I am going to share some things that I think are important as we've been, the last couple of weeks, really, I think the last 3 weeks, we've been talking to the youth that I pastor to about things that we're taking in and the symbolism of those things that we're really, bringing in. What are you watching? What are you listening to? The symbolism in those things. We're going to go ahead and we're going to dive into that as well, because I think that that's very important, since it does go hand in hand with what you're consuming on your devices. So again, thank you everybody for being with us tonight. We always appreciate it. And at the same time, we always encourage you. Does not take any time. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube with us, it doesn't take any time to just go ahead and hit that share button that's there. Put it on your wall. You don't know who's going to be blessed with it. If you're doing it on YouTube and you hit share, put in the phone number or the name of who you want to share to. You could share to text. You could share through WhatsApp. You can even put it on your own social media straight from there. Go ahead and do that. You don't know who might be blessed with that. You can DM it to people here on Instagram. If you have questions, do not hesitate. Drop it in the comments. Go ahead and drop that in the comments. We will be looking out for that. And when Jay Mejia joins us tonight, he will be reading the anonymous ones as well. So if you want to share something, if you want to do it anonymously, hit the little, speaking bubble that's right there with the little question mark. The talking bubble that's right there on your bottom right-hand corner in your Instagram. You can share anonymously if you have something that you want to share, but you don't want people to know who it is. Maybe you're just a little bit shy. Maybe you might be a little bit embarrassed, but you know that it might be something that's worthwhile. Maybe it's a question. Maybe it's a testimony. Don't hesitate to go ahead and drop that by hitting the speaking bubble in the bottom right-hand corner with the question mark. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get started here real quick. So again, the main focus of tonight's topic, Jay Mejia, what he was thinking about doing and we're just kind of going to kind of piggyback off of that. He wanted to go ahead and discuss kids, iPads, how we have to be super careful with what they watch. I want to kind of branch out a little bit more because I know some of you guys are parents, some of you guys are uncles, aunts, grandparents. Really go ahead and think about what those children around you, and not just children, you know, not just the younger ones. I want to go ahead and add in there your teenagers as well. Even you yourself, start thinking about what is it that you are watching, and are you being careful about what you're watching, what you're taking in terms of what you're watching. You know, nowadays it's very different from how things were. I would say even 5, 6 years ago, you know, 5, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, what were most people taking in? You know, most people were watching, you know, TV for the most part. You know, you had your Netflix, you had your streaming, but when you think about it, really, it wasn't long, you know, really wasn't that long ago when we were put in a TV with the DVR to go ahead and record your show, right? Really, things have changed. They've changed drastically. They've changed rapidly. But most of us, we were subscribing to cable, right? So when it came time to go ahead and watch something, when we wanted to be entertained and it was going to be done with the screen, we were either on the internet, on our phone, on our iPad, on our laptop, or we were watching TV. Put the show on the DVR, you know, might get a little bit upset, a little bit tight if the show didn't record right, you know what I'm saying? Or missed it completely. But that's how we were taking in content. Nowadays, it's become even more accessible. You know, where if you want to watch a show, you're watching it on your phone. You don't even need an iPad. You don't even need a laptop. In fact, most people are not consuming the content on their TV anymore. Most people are not consuming, not even on a laptop anymore. Most people are doing it on their phone, maybe their iPad, like as a number two, but typically it ends up being your phone, right? So that means that you're much more connected and much more willing to let your time be taken up by that content. But in many cases, we're not even watching your standard TV anymore. What are we watching? We're typically watching the content that we see on social media. We're typically watching the content that we see on YouTube. Those are really the top places that we consume our content, which is why we get stuck in it so much. But let's start off with really the kids first, right? So for those of y'all that have parents, that have children, have nieces, have nephews, have grandkids, I want y'all to look at it real quick from the perspective of we're busy, especially if you're a parent. We are busy. So typically, what do? You know, before, if you were busy at home, then maybe we're trying to go ahead and cook, focus on a little bit of work, just kind of unwind. What we tell the kids to do before? It would be a thing of, you know, go watch some TV, go play with your toys. If you're into video games, go play, you know, with this video game, whatever, just so you can get a little bit of time to unwind. But the thing is, that was something that was reserved in the house, right? So it was a thing of only in the house. But now let's be honest about how things are today. If you drive and you're in the car, you don't want to be hearing all that mess that the kids might be coming up with, right? What do most of them do? If they have their own tablet, they rock in the tablet with them. If not, what do? Mommy, can I get the phone? We hear it all the time with my son. Mommy, can I borrow your phone? Mommy, can I borrow your phone? Dad, can I borrow your phone? Right? If you're in a restaurant eating, if you're somewhere out and about where like you really want to focus on having a conversation with somebody, eating in peace, whatever it is, how many of us are guilty for just, let me just give you the phone? Let me just give you the phone, right? So what happens, that's a topic that Jay Mejia wanted to kind of get into today, is are you really paying attention to what are they doing and what are they watching on the devices? I want to start there, and then we're going to branch into us ourselves, right? So really, in reality, in the past, that electronic device, that screen, was the babysitter at home or at grandma's house. Or if you went over to a family member's house and you guys were just kind of hanging out with family, Many times it would be a thing of like maybe at their house. But for the most part, you know, I don't know how many of y'all recognize back in the day, how many of you guys remember back in the day, typically that kind of screen being a babysitter was at home, right? But nowadays it's everywhere. I mean, this device we got right here, everywhere we go, we got this with us. And most of our kids are asking us, can I borrow it? Can I borrow it? Can I borrow it? Can I watch the YouTube? In many cases, some of us have even given our kids phones at ages that in the past we would have been like, nah, that ain't it. That ain't the move. Giving my kid a phone at 6, 7, 8, 9 years old is not the move. But I want you guys to ask yourselves, how many of you that are parents have given your child a phone before the age of 10? Right? I think many people are doing that nowadays. And the first question is why, right? Because I remember when we first gave my daughter a phone, the main thing would be, okay, well, you know what? First of all, it was free. They were giving us the line for free for like a year. So it was like, why not? Because she won't have to borrow it from us, right? But the biggest thing was, she's not taking it everywhere with her, first and foremost, right? And then second, it would be a thing of, if she goes out, we have a way to get to her. For most parents, that's why you were giving phones to the kids in their teens, is because once they were in middle school, once they were in high school, you wanted to have easier access, easier communication to them, right? Especially in this, you know, with how crazy things are getting right now, that's when you wanted to go ahead and give them the device. But nowadays, it's like we're seeing kids much younger, and it's not, they're always with the parents, but it's a thing of, let me get you this phone, this tablet now. And why is it? So that while you're everywhere, you can be entertained. So you don't have to deal with it in reality. So you can kind of do things in peace. If you kind of think that this might be a little bit off, I want you to ask yourself and be honest. Yo, when you go to a store, you go to Target, you go to Walmart, you go to the supermarket, right? Pay attention when you see the parents with their kids, whether they're little kids, whether they're teenagers. What are those kids doing the majority of the time? They typically got that phone in their hand. Usually the parents' phone, or maybe their own. They typically, if they're at a restaurant, they got that tablet, right? I mean, think about it. These restaurants nowadays, most of them even have the tablet in the restaurant so that they can be entertained right there, because it's all about that screen, right? But let me ask you, how often are you checking to see what they're watching? Do you ever check to see what's on, you know, what's on their YouTube streams? First question is, how many parents give their kids access to YouTube? You know, that's question number one. How many of them have access to YouTube? Are you freely giving them access to YouTube? Are you doing YouTube Kids? Do you give them the regular YouTube? Are you just letting them play Roblox like endlessly? What do you give them access to? Do you let them on Netflix? Do you set up the Netflix kid? What do you do with these kids, right? Because it's a very important question to go ahead and ask. What are they consuming on the device? Are you checking? Now, it's very important. I'm going to tell you why. A lot of times, first and foremost, if you're giving your kids access to YouTube, I mean, you're really giving them access to everything. And believe me, when you're watching something like, when you see these kids kind of navigating through YouTube, the dangerous thing about YouTube, no matter the age, but it's especially dangerous when they're younger, is that they usually ask you to point them a certain direction, or they look for that certain direction. But what happens after you give them that access to that direction? You get endless options that take you from one thing to another thing to another thing. For those smaller kids that don't know, are you checking to see if the content that they get is being filtered to be appropriate for what they should be taking in? Because a lot of times we got to babysit them, but we're not looking. Or once you get to those kids that can spell, are you checking to see what they're searching for? Because I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of kids looking up very interesting things that makes you wonder, where are they looking for that content at? Right? So think about that. Are you looking up the content that your kids are watching on YouTube when they're on their phone, their tablet? And if you're not, how do you know what they're watching? How do you know what they're taking in? It's really a question that you got to look at, because the thing is, the word itself says that the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I'm not talking about just destroying property, like I'm mad, I'm going to break this, I'm going to break this car window, I'm going to light something on fire. It's talking about us personally. He's coming to steal from us. He's coming to destroy us, to kill a lot of things that are going on with us. But it's not just you. He wants not just the present, but he wants to take care of the future too. And what do you think the future is? The future is the kids. Your future as well, and we're going to get to that in a little bit, but the future is the kids. So think about that. You don't think that he's going to try to get his way in through the content that they're consuming? Really think about that. Really, really think about that. So not only that, but some of us as parents go and we say, well, I don't let my kids on YouTube. I'm not gonna let them on YouTube. They're not doing the YouTube. No. I don't trust the YouTube. I've even had parents that have told me, yo, I don't even do the YouTube Kids. Not even that, because I don't trust the YouTube. Carol writing their TikTok, yo, Carol, you right on the money. Right on the money. Especially once we get to these later elementary grades. I would say 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, middle school especially, high school especially. TikTok is it's addictive. I got grown-ups that will tell me flat out, I had to get off TikTok. I'm not doing social media. I was doing TikTok, and I had to take a break because I was spending hours. I wouldn't go to sleep watching TikTok. We're supposed to be the consumer, but in reality, it's consuming us because it's consuming our time. But again, we're going to get to that for us personally here in a little bit. But with your kids, whether it's YouTube, whether it's TikTok, you don't know what your kids are watching in that. Carol, I know you're asking right there, how does a child get a TikTok account? Believe me, it's crazy because they shouldn't be able to, and they're doing a better job of being able to tell when it's a child that's registering an account, but typically it takes a few weeks, if not months, if they ever do. I have seen them block kid accounts, but usually it's at least a short period of time before they realize that it's a child, before they block them. But the thing is, kids know, they get creative, and then they can go ahead and get into these different worlds to see what's up. And then the information that's being fed to them, you don't know what it is. You just don't. But again, you might be a parent that locks things down, right? Like me with my kids, oh man, I got them locked down. These kids weren't doing social media. Now that my girls are a little bit older, we let them do the social media, but we're monitoring consistently. We get the messages. We check the history. We go all out, right? But a lot of parents will say, no, I'm just going to block. I'm just going to block. Okay, you block the YouTube, you block the YouTube Kids, you block the Facebook, the TikTok, the Snapchat, you block everything. But we got a number of parents that, okay, they're not going to do that, but you know what? We're going to make it so they can watch Netflix, so they can watch Disney Plus. Now, granted, I'm not going to be here knocking the streaming services because I believe that being able to take in content is good. Being able to relax, unwind is good. But again, are you watching for what your kids are watching? I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a background. A lot of you guys know, you got to be kind of living under a rock. Maybe you don't know, but I'm going to bring it up just in case. But most of you know that recently, Disney has gone under fire for a number of different reasons. when it comes to LGBT, Q agendas and all that stuff. Why? Because before the supposed Don't Say Gay bill in Florida, which that don't pay attention to that because it was not labeled that. Politicians go and they twist things a certain way. But essentially, with that bill, Disney at first was supporting, the government in that, and then they backtracked, right? With that, they started to get a lot of backlash because Disney had some information leak over, over the span of a few weeks of things that they were sharing within, within conferences that they were having with their employees, right? And in that, a video came out showing like, the supposed woke agendas, right? Going ahead and showing that. And you had people that were creating content for them that were essentially saying, we're making this content, we're purposely putting certain kinds of content out there to support our agenda, but the kids aren't seeing it. It's kind of in the background. Lately, that Buzz Lightyear movie that came out, they didn't put things in the background. They had, a lesbian relationship in the forefront with one of the main characters, which for some parents will be like, I don't necessarily know that I like this content with my kids. Like, why do my kids need to even see that? Like, you're trying to keep it innocent, right? You're trying to keep it innocent. But the bottom line is some of this stuff is out there because people put it out there for you to be able to see. But the thing is, are you as a parent looking for it to make the decision on what your child should watch or can watch? Or are you just lending them the device? It's only Disney Plus they got on there. It's only Netflix they got on there. Let them have it. I know that it's good. Let me share with you why no matter what, you have to go and monitor what's on here for those kids. You want to be able to have the choice. You want to be able to make the determination yourself of what information they're consuming. You as a parent, you as an uncle or aunt, with the trust of the parent, you want to make sure that they're consuming something that's healthy for them. Not anything that's pushing agendas, not anything that's trying to sway your child one direction or not. But I'll give you guys a perfect example. The other day, I was kind of flipping, I was sitting down, Disney Plus on. And I was like, I really feel like watching something. What's up? Okay, Doctor Strange. No, I don't really want to watch that. Let me go through. And I saw this little short movie, kind of like based on a What Broadway play or something like that. I'm not even going to go and mention which one it was. But I was like, the description looks a little suspect. You know what I'm saying? A little suspect for content that I would want my children to be able to watch. So I was like, okay, let me look at the trailer. I go, wow, pop on the trailer. I'm watching the trailer. Okay. What's up with this trailer? Okay, I'm seeing it. And then all of a sudden, the trailer starts mentioning like they're teasing this kid that's probably like a middle schooler in this movie for writing in his notebook, not the name of a girl, but the name of a boy, like he's interested in. I'm like, hold up. And that's the whole premise, was that this kid does have these feelings. He is believing that he's homosexual, right? Believing that he's gay. And that's what the whole thing is like pretty much about. And I'm like, okay, I'm logged in with my account. So I know like Disney Plus has some movies that are suspect, has some shows that are suspect in terms of like the violence and stuff like that they do not show on younger kid accounts. So I got mine password restricted, whatever, because I don't want my kids to watch certain kinds of content, like especially some of the newer Disney stuff. Good, an adult can take it in because of the violence and everything like that, if you're ready for that, but a child shouldn't. So because of that, I got the restriction. So out of curiosity, I was like, let me log into the accounts that I made for my kids, because I got an account for each one of the kids, so that they could go and, watch their own stuff without the other one messing up like their flow, what episode they're on and everything, right? So first I go into my 3-year-old's account, like the most basic that you could get, because I think Disney Plus sets it up by age. Okay, everything's good. That movie's not on here. Everything's mad clean, no problem. But then I get into the account that starts, I believe, at age 7 or 8. And I'm like, okay, this is the one that my youngest daughter is in. Let me see if it shows up there. Sure enough, it was one of the first ones to show up there. And my question is, at age 8, 9, 10, does my child need to watch that? Thankfully, as a parent, I got a chance to see and make the decision and be like, nah, that ain't the move. But again, are most of us checking? Are most of us checking to see what's here? Because the thing about that is that people will gravitate, especially at younger ages, but even as adults, people gravitate towards things when people are convincing. Now, this is not a thing about bringing out anybody's sin or anything like that. It's not. But it's a thing about, why are you trying to convince people a certain direction or to believe certain things at that young of an age? Somebody I know brings up, somebody that a content creator that I check out, he brings a great quote that he uses. I think it comes from him himself. Some of these kids trying to pick their gender, their sexuality, but they're not even old enough to pick their bedtime. Back in the day, I know some people that used to say something different. They used to say, you want to make these decisions, but you can't, you're so young that you can't even wipe your behind right. Showing how, like, the level of maturity to be able to make some decisions. And back in the day, I remember that would be when we were interested in having like a relationship with somebody, going out with somebody, talking about sex and teenage years and all that stuff. Sometimes that would be a saying that you would have, because the thing is, at a young age, you don't know. Being honest, those of us that are older, right? Those of us that are a little bit older, come on now, you know that we used to fight with our parents at the age of 13, 14, 15, even 17, 18. We used to fight with our parents over stuff that nowadays, when we look back at it as adults, we're like, yo, mommy and papi, forgive me, because like, yo, thank goodness you stopped me from doing that, because that would have been like the dumbest move I could have ever made. You know what I'm saying? And your parents stopped you from making certain decisions, because in reality, in retrospect, now that you're a little bit older, you look back on the past and you're like, yo, thank God that somebody was there that looked out for me, that cared enough for me to stop me from doing something that at the moment I was tight about, I was upset about. But now that I look back, thank you, Jesus, that person was there to stop me. So many decisions like that. But are we looking out for that for our kids? Or are we really letting the babysitter go ahead and handle that for us? The babysitter being right here. If you don't believe that the enemy wants to come for your kids, for your nieces, for your nephews, I'm talking like little kids, teenagers, I want you to think for a second. Really think. If he wasn't so interested in that, I'm going to give y'all a little bit of history. Why is it that when someone big was coming, somebody that God wanted to make a change with, biblically speaking, I could give the example of Moses, Jesus, At what point did the enemy want to destroy them? He wanted to destroy them as children. Think about that for a second. The enemy has always wanted to destroy people of importance when they're kids. It's always been like that. Right now is a dangerous time. Because the very first ministry, a lot of times people talk about church and ministry and all that stuff is great and it's important. Don't get me wrong. But whether you want to go to church and believe in religion and all that stuff, let me share with you the very first ministry, the most important ministry that God gives you is your family. Are you taking care of your family? Are you taking care of your kids? Because those kids can't defend themselves. They don't know. And it's our job as parents. It's our job as a uncle and the aunt, as a grandma and the grandpa, to make sure that they're protected. When you're out on the street with the kid, whether it's your niece, nephew, your son, your daughter, your grandkids, how many of y'all keep them close? Especially nowadays with how crazy things are with like human trafficking and all that kind of stuff. I don't know about y'all. My kids do not leave my sight. My kids don't leave my sight. They stay with me. I don't let them just roam around like crazy. I don't feel comfortable that way. In fact, I'm even careful about who they hang out with, like by themselves. I don't let them go to just anybody's house. Because I need to make sure that they're protected. And I don't know how many of you guys do that you're like, nah, I don't let them. Number one, they're going to be around me. And number two, I'm very selective on who I can trust with my kids. If we're so protective with them on that, to protect them from harm, why are we trusting this? So think about that for a second. Because I know, especially with what we've seen here in the last couple of years, there's some of you guys that don't even trust everything that you see in here. You don't trust what you're seeing on social media. You don't trust the news that your Apple News or any of that stuff gives you. You know that there's something a little off, a little suspect. You don't trust what you see in your Twitter feed. You don't trust what you're seeing on YouTube. You don't completely trust what you see everywhere. You're starting to question a lot of things. So you don't trust what you're getting in here. So why are you trusting your kids alone with this? If you don't trust it for yourself, why are you trusting them with this? There's kids that have gotten ideas to do things that they shouldn't do because of videos. So I'm not even going to get into LGBTQ stuff. Let's just talk about just general behavior. How many of you guys have ever noticed one day you leave your kid with the device a little bit longer than usual, and all of a sudden your kid starts acting a way that they weren't acting before? Like something, especially if that's your family, their behavior, right? How many of you guys have ever noticed like a pattern, a difference in the behavior? And you notice that there's a certain channel that they're watching a lot more frequently than others? Have you ever, as a parent, you could write it in the chat if you believe, that you've done that before. Have you ever stopped to analyze hold up, they're watching this channel a lot, this character a lot, this family a lot. And you're like, I don't really like that attitude. And you've had to put a stop to it. Dale un tate quieto in that moment, right? because you're like, this is not the move. Like, what's going on? And you've questioned it, and you look at it, and you're like, yo, what's going on? And you start to analyze, and you're like, who are they hanging around? Who are they hanging around? No, they're not really hanging around anybody. Okay, so what's different? What's different? And you start to analyze. As a parent, you start to look, you start to analyze. Why is their behavior a little bit different? What are they doing different? Are they playing the game a little bit more? Are they playing with this toy a little bit more? Are they wait a second, they're watching. And then you sit there and you start listening to what they're watching, and you're like, turn that off. Apágame eso. Or you go real quick. Let me switch the video, right? And you tell them, nah, I don't want you watching that. It's the danger. Some of us have seen it. I already see Maylee there writing in the chat. Some behavior, all of a sudden the behavior change, and then what happens? The moment that the behavior changes and you put a stop to it, you're like, nah, you ain't watching that one no more. What happens? Sometimes you got to take the iPad away for a little bit. Sometimes you just block the channel. You're like, you ain't watching the channel no more. And then all of a sudden, what happens? Their behavior starts to go back to what you are teaching them. You know, even the very Bible tells you, teach a child in the way in which they should go, and they will not depart from it. Meaning you teach them the way you instruct them, the way that you instruct them. That's like firm instruction. Like you're sending them in a certain direction. And because of that, they will not leave that. Even if they leave it, they'll always come back to what they've learned, what they were instructed on. You know what I'm saying? So some of you guys have seen that when you're taking a pause from instructing, and all of a sudden they start to change, and you notice the difference. I see Carol writes, Pokemon is bad. Many believe that. Many believe that. You know, that's actually where I'm going to get into, not necessarily Pokemon, but I'm going to get into a few other things. Because, you know, first and foremost, it's important what our child is bringing in, what our children are intaking, what our nieces and nephews are taking in, right? And Carol, you're going exactly where I'm going. Hidden subliminal messages in the videos and the music. Hidden messages. I've given you guys verses before that are very important. They tell us that, you know, that our battle is not against flesh and blood, but it's against things in the spiritual. Yo, there's a lot of doors that open. A lot of doors that open based on what you're consuming, what you're taking in, what your kids are taking in. Some of y'all have seen it with the behavior of the kids. Something you got to be careful of. But we have to remember as well, we are the example, right? We're the example. So the other question is, what example are you setting for the kids too? Are you watching out for what you're watching? Like, are you really watching out for what you're consuming? What do you consume? How often do you consume it? And this also goes into, you know, what I've mentioned to you before. I've tried to teach here in the last couple of months. Every now and then, I've brought up the word idol, idolatry. A lot of times people will think that an idol is a statue, something that you worship in your house or wherever. That's like, oh man, I got the statue of whatever. I got a Buddha statue in my house. I got a statue of this in my house, a little statue of that. No, that's not what an idol is. An idol is anything that takes away the place of God, takes your focus and attention and time away from God. This is not to say that you can't enjoy life and enjoy the things that are out there. But think about how many hours, let's start first with the kids. Think about how many hours nieces and nephews, how many hours are they on the device? Some of you know that it's probably 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours. Some of y'all got kids that when they wake up, as they're eating cereal in the morning, a pancake in the morning, they're watching. You out and about, they're watching. They're on the couch, they're watching. They're going to go to sleep, they're watching. At all times, they are watching. Let me ask, how much time are your kids spending with God at any moment? For many of us, it's zero. So now think about where the replacement is. Again, this is not to say, especially when they're young kids, that these kids are going to be spending 24/7, 365 talking to God all day. I mean, let's not be unrealistic. But the thing is that they have no connection to God, but tons of connection with this the whole day. Double-digit hours in many cases. That's teaching idolatry. But at the same time, us as parents, when was the last time you looked at your screen time? And I know that this is a tough conversation to have. But how much time are you spending that you're like, have you evaluated? And I'm going to bring this up for two reasons. Number one, have you evaluated how much time you're spending on the screen? How many times you picked up Instagram, Facebook, YouTube that the app shows you? Because what happens is the screen time, the time that's being robbed on you here, there's two things that the enemy, we talk about the enemy, steals, kills, and destroys. First of all, he can steal your time right here, real convenient. You're not even thinking about it. He's destroying your relationship with God because we spend much more time with God, much more time with this than God, and this becomes our God. You don't think that this becomes your God? What happens when this lights up like that? When you hear on your bedside the phone vibrate, when you see in the dark that this goes like that and turns on, when you're sitting at the table and you got the phone there at the table, and all of a sudden it's like, all of a sudden the screen turns on, doesn't that get your attention immediately? Think about that. The phone has become a god. That's what we're talking about with the idolatry. But how many times God is trying to get your attention and you don't pay attention? Sometimes God, for some of you guys, you know what I'm talking about, because right now you might be receiving this message and you might not like what's being said in this message right now, in this very moment. But God might be trying to speak to you. If he was lighting up the phone, you'd pay attention. But right now, this is lighting up your heart. And you might be choosing to ignore it because it's a tough pill to swallow. Or how many times you've been somewhere and all of a sudden you think something and you're like, man, I really need to make that change in my life. Do you think that change in your life is coming from you yourself? Or do you think that change in your life is that something is happening in that very moment that God wants to get your attention? But it's not necessarily the convenient time or the way that you want it to be. So really think about that. It's become an idol. And that's where we got to be very, very careful. I see right now, I've got somebody on Facebook that's writing, I don't know what you were saying before, but it's like Adam and Eve. Absolutely. Let me share with you guys. I think some of you guys were on a live a few months ago where I shared this. Others were not. So I'm just gonna share something with you. The devil will never come to deceive you and scare you in or make you go the wrong way in a scary way. For example, if I want to kill you, right? Let's say I'm plotting to kill you down in somewhere that's kind of It's never going to catch you like, it's going to catch you by surprise, right? I want to make sure it catches you by surprise. And I got one direction that you can go that's really pretty, a street you can go down that's really pretty. And then I got another one that looks really, really dangerous. And you know that your life is at risk. You're going to go. You're probably going to turn to the direction that looks pretty and safe. You're not going to go in the direction that looks ugly and dangerous, because you're going to play your odds and you're going to be like, no, I don't want to go down there. But the enemy will trick you in your life to go down the wrong way, not in a way in which it's going to scare you. Oh, look at the red monster with the horns and all that stuff. No, he's going to make things attractive, because once he sinks you in, that's where he can take control and do what he wants. He's got his hooks in you. And the example that they wrote here, that example of Adam and Eve, a lot of people don't know this. He didn't necessarily trick Eve with lies. He knew the Bible. He knew the word. He knew what God said. What he did was he twisted it. He asked a question that made Eve doubt. And in that trickery, there wasn't necessarily a lie. There was a twisting of what God meant in his word. And that's what led to Eve's destruction. There's a lot of things out there right now that are vying for your attention. And you know what those things are going to do? They're going to make you think what the word exactly said would happen. They're going to make good things look evil and evil things look good. The people would call the good things evil and the bad things good. And we can get into a whole long topic about that. I don't want to get off topic. That would probably be something we can go into. But come on now. There's a lot of things that we're just easily accepting of nowadays, because we're being conditioned to believe that things are okay being a certain way, because that's just the way the world is. But you want your kids living in that world? You want the generations coming after you to live in that world? Or you want something better for them? I also see right now, we got a message that says he manipulates people and sends subliminal messages in songs, toys, and movies. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yo, there's so much stuff going on that when you pay attention, if you really sit down and pay attention, you'll realize that what you're taking in has a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you're like, oh snap, like, hold up, what's going on here? And some people could say like, okay, well, that's not really evil, it's shock value. I'm going to give you guys some examples here in just a little bit. But I want you guys to take in, what is the content that you take in? Because really there's symbols and things everywhere, right? Let's take, for example, shows. When you start binge watching. Because nowadays, right, before we used to have to wait for an episode, we go from show to show to show. There was never binge watching of one particular show. There was binge watching of different shows, right? We'd watch different shows. Nowadays, when you watch a show, how many of y'all, when you stop watching, you continue to think about the show? You start dreaming about the show. Why am I thinking about that? It's because you were binge watching it. Once you start to absorb the content continuously, your mind starts to program in that direction. That's why there's people that watch motivational messages. They can watch motivational messages. They can watch preachings for hours. You go and you talk to them, their outlook is positive. They're trying to move forward. They believe good things are going to happen. But show somebody violent content continuously, all of a sudden the attitude starts to change a little bit. Play somebody some sad music for an extended period of time. What is the mood the person is in? Really think about that. Like, how many times have you watched something and at the end of it, you're like, man, I'm sad, but I don't even know why I'm sad. I don't know why that's happening. Why do I feel this way? And then you go and you turn on the music and it's sad music. You know, like, think about that, especially like when you've been in like a relationship. Let's say like the relationship, you guys break up and everything. All of a sudden you start watching the sad movies. You start watching or listening to the sad music and all that stuff. And you don't realize that that's keeping you in a certain mood. Because that's what happens when you start to intake a lot in a certain way, it starts to lead you in a certain direction. I know somebody that there was an artist, there's a hip hop artist one time that I know said, you know, back in the day, all I used to listen to was songs that would say, you know, wobble wobble, shake it, you know, talking about the girls in the videos, you know, or the songs talking about, you know, essentially nothing but sex, nothing but the girl's body, things that they could do, all of these different things. And the thing is that every song was about the females. Every song was about the females. Every song was about the females. Every song was about the drinking. Every song was about this. What do you think that they wanted to do? What was constantly on their mind? Sex was constantly on their mind. You think sex was just naturally in their mind? Like the moment that they saw a female, they were immediately thinking about sex. But why do you think that they were thinking that? You got to really watch out for what you're taking in. But now we go back to the kids. If we go back to the original point, which was the kids, the children, if you can get into these kinds of moods where these things are constantly in your head, you are consistently thinking about it. Your mood shifts in terms of what you're listening to, what you're watching, what you're binge watching, and everything. Go back to the kids and what we talked about. When they're stuck on a YouTube channel the entire day, right? What happens, or when you start to analyze, yo, why's my daughter or my son's mood changed? What's going on? And like somebody, you know, wrote in the messages, you know, maybe like 10, 15 minutes back. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that with my kid. The attitude. Their attitude changed. That's not my son. That's not who I know. And then once you took away the content, they start slowly getting back. Slowly getting back. Got to watch out for what we're doing with our kids, what we're allowing the kids to take in. But are you also watching what you're taking in? Because it's crazy out there. And you don't know what the content that you are intaking, you don't know how that's affecting your life. You don't know doors that are being opened for that. You have to be very careful with that. You don't know. I remember, a few months ago, I remember that Doctor Strange movie dropped. And, you've always, mostly, I know a lot of you guys have seen a lot of these Marvel movies, right? You've seen a lot of these Marvel movies, and, they overall, they're very enjoyable films, nice action, all this other stuff. But I remember we went to go. A friend of mine, one of the young adults that that I pastor, he and I went to go see Doctor Strange. And I remember walking out being like, yo, that is not a PG-13 movie. It's not. But on top of all of that, I walked in expecting one thing, and as I was watching the movie, I was like, yo, this thing is like straight up, like the witchcraft and all that stuff is out there, like out there in your face. It's no shame. I even have people that, like, you know, consume the content and they're not really critical about it. They were like, you know what, in reality, they didn't need to show all that much. They could have made a point without doing that. They're doing it for a reason. Because there's things behind it. There are things completely behind it. I see Carol writes, I saw that too happen with my son. Thank you, Carol, for sharing. I see Jao Penn writes, it's so true, Pastor Carlos, our eye and ears are gates, or gates can be a portal to all kinds of things. Absolutely. Our eye and ear gates can be a portal to all kinds of things. Those subliminal messages, they are feeding you these things and you don't even realize what they're feeding you. And then many times the door is open and it's too late. I want to give you guys a great example. I shared this one with my youth yesterday. Last 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, we've been talking about content. We've been talking about satanic imagery in a lot of the content that's out there that people don't even realize is satanic imagery, but it's out there in the open for people to go ahead and see, and they're watching it, right? They're intaking this stuff. And we got to the point of Lil Nas X, the artist Lil Nas X. You know, everybody knew the song. Everybody knew the song. You could not go anywhere without hearing that Old Town Road song. All these kids, little kids bumping Old Town Road, right? I want you guys to understand, first and foremost, how the music industry works. If I'm a music executive, I find an artist that nobody's heard of. I invest money in this artist, and now my promotional people, my A&R people, my PR people, everybody, all these music executives, they are going to piece together what this artist is going to look like, what kind of songs this artist is going to sing. They're going to try and package an image, right? Now that artist went and created a song, Old Town Road, dressed up in his cowboy outfit, singing these songs. Song was a hit. Most people didn't care for the rest of the album, but that one song was a hit. You could not go anywhere. I remember I took my my youth that I pastor. I took them over to a Christian camp, Christian camp, and they were even bumping that there at one point. They were doing a little thing on the stage, a little warm up to kind of get the kids ready to, you know, receive, loosen them up a little bit, and then hit them, you know, with the Christian content. And they were playing that song because it was just what was hot at the moment. Everybody was into it. I remember driving back in the little van that I had all these, you know, 15, 16, 17 kids in. And even there, they were like bumping the song. I even had, my daughter even mentioned, you know, when one of the kids played the song, I was taking a nap. Even I woke up and we all singing it in the car, right? There are images of this guy even going to schools. Little kids loving it, taking the pictures. You have to think a lot of the people that were taking in his music, his content, that particular hit, were little kids. To the point that was such a hit for that record company that they took him and made a children's book. Now, if we fast forward, it's only been 3 years since he had that hit. 2 years if we count when he last released an album. In a 2-year period, those 6-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds, they're only now 7, 8, 9, maybe 10 years old. But he has now gone not just with gay imagery, but demonic imagery on top of that. People don't have issues showing gay content to kids. They don't. In fact, the agenda that's being pushed is that that's okay. What's the need for the demonic imagery? You see, when you package an artist and you only have one hit and you've paid so much money to the artist, you want to make sure that you have a return on your investment. That means for any actor, for any artist that wants to go down a particular path, you need to uphold an image because they've invested so much money in you that they need to see a way in which you get a return. Is record sales, it's streams, and YouTube. The only way that you end up getting that money back, your return on your investment, is for that person to uphold an image that most people are going to want to consume. Why were they in a 2-year period? Gay agenda. Because if that was the case, yo, he was rocking a pink cowboy outfit for the longest. I mean, I don't know that many dudes that rock pink cowboy outfits. So I think you probably could have made that point with no problem and still had it be kind of suspect. But the plan is in the imagery. The plan is in what's being put out there. So if you pay attention, you're being fed things by industries that want to feed you things and make you think it's okay and desensitize you to it. This is where connection to God is important. Grown-ups and kids alike, I've seen who have told me when they listen to certain kinds of music, when they listen to watch certain kinds of movies, see certain kinds of pictures, no, something just don't sit right in my spirit. Like something feels off. I can't be watching this content. I can't be taking this in. And the thing is, we can't turn a blind eye to it. And us as parents, many of us are turning a blind eye to leaving the kids unattended with this. Because the thing is, we have to realize that this is a battle. This whole thing is a battle. Why is it important? Because when you realize that you're in a battle, you come prepared. When you know what the enemy's going to come at you with, you come prepared. But what happens when you go into something and you completely believe that everything's okay, but in reality, there's a fight coming to you, there's a battle coming to you? You're going to be blindsided. An enemy that can blindside you has an upper hand. An enemy that can blindside you can possibly even convince you that things are okay when they're not. And that's what's happening right now. Us as grown-ups personally, we're taking in a lot of content that we believe is okay. What are you watching? I want you to take a moment to evaluate. Being honest, most of us are not watching TV like that. Unless we're streaming and binging Netflix. Most of us are not watching TV like that. The majority of the screen time that we take for ourselves is right here. Being honest. Being 100% honest with ourselves. What are you watching on here? Because what you're watching on here is important. You know why? The platforms that you're watching or you're ingesting, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok. After the first few videos that you've watched and you've liked, even Netflix does this. It's crazy. After the first few videos that we watch, the first few posts that you stayed on for a little bit longer, it starts to figure out what you're into, what it needs to start feeding you. And it starts feeding you more. The same thing happens with your kids. When it's figured out what those kids are into, it's going to start feeding them more. We could talk about YouTube algorithms and everything. I think the enemy has an algorithm out there for how he wants to go and affect us. Are we looking out for that? For example, you could look at, I'm going to follow these artists. I'm going to follow these artists. I'm going to follow these celebrities. I like to watch these celebrities. Y'all just love the gossip, right? I love to see what's going on in their lives. But as you're watching them and their posts, and you're being fed other posts by people similar to them, let me ask, how are you feeling? You feeling all right? Are you feeling good about your life? Does it edify you? Does it build you up? Do you feel that you're making the moves that you should be making, going towards your purpose? Or if you took a few seconds right now to analyze, are you not where you want to be? And ask yourself the question, has taking in that content possibly put you and your purpose, the direction of going towards your purpose, on pause? I want you to think about that for a second. You know, if you go and I don't know how many of you guys have watched that movie that was talking about social media on Facebook, that documentary. The very people that created all these platforms, many of them are now fighting back because they're not being used the way that they intended. And it's now hurting people. That's crazy. Because what we're missing out on is that the enemy is stealing our time. And he's stealing our blessing. And he's stealing our connection with the Lord. Think about the amount of time that you might have spent this week alone on social media, on YouTube, on Netflix. I want you to evaluate that. And when you have that number, take just a fraction of it and ask yourself. Because a lot of times when we're not making the moves that we should make, and we're not moving forward, a lot of times we use the excuse that, I just don't have time. Well, if you got back half the time that your device tells you that you spent on the screen, you add it up by the day, you add it up by the week. What could you do with that time to push you in a positive direction? Right? Some of you can think of something financial, like, I can make some moves with money. Some of you guys can think, I could spend some more time with my kids. I can connect more with my family. I could focus on my business. You know what? I could spend 30 of those minutes throughout the day talking to God to build a relationship. We have the time, but it's getting stolen. And the enemy loves it because we've fallen right into it. That's where he steals. He's doing the same thing to your kids. Because on top of stealing their time, he's going and stealing, trying to steal at least their future. And if you don't believe that, some of these kids are getting programmed for lifestyles that they don't need in their life, and they were not designed for and was never in their purpose. But they're making decisions. And that's absolutely crazy. What are you doing with it? Little bro.
How you doing, big bro?
Blessing to have you on with us, man. I don't know how much you've
Likewise.
gotten a chance to hear, but we've been going in.
Definitely, man. I've been listening all the way, especially on the drive back. And it's definitely a topic that we had to touch. And I feel like we have to touch it on a regular basis, just as a reminder. Because like you mentioned in
Absolutely.
the beginning, it's so much that we do with giving our kids, our children, the iPad. This way, we can kill time, or if there's anything that we have to get done around the house or at a restaurant, you want to go ahead and hand over a device. But again, like you mentioned before, what are they watching? Half the time we don't know. And one testimony that I can put out out there is that the same thing happens with my daughter. Um, I thought that she was only watching certain videos. She just got into Roblox a few months ago. I wasn't really fully aware of the access that they can have via Roblox because there's multiple games in one, and there's a lot of violent games that they expose to
Mm-hmm.
that really does change their thoughts, their behaviors. Cartoons, you know what I mean, that changes their behavior, even in their response. I've experienced this with Liani alone. There's things that she'll say like, oh, you don't love me. And I'm like, oh, yes, I do. We love you very much, actually. Where did you get that from? Luckily, her honesty is just, oh, I saw it in this cartoon. It was on YouTube. You would actually think that YouTube would restrict certain cartoons, right, for children, because it's supposed to at least filter out. What's the name of that app? YouTube for Kids,
Right, YouTube Kids.
right? YouTube Kids, and sometimes, okay, if you put a video on for them, it's not that video. It's actually the one that comes after, right?
Bro, to tell you, I've even had in some instances, not necessarily things that they were watching in terms of episodes, but
Mm-hmm.
you know how like sometimes when it goes from one episode to another, it might hit you with an ad. And the ad would have nothing to do with kids at all. This is not a thing of like, it might have had to do with kids, but maybe as a parent, you took it a different way. Bro, it's ads that were marked to be for children, but the ad had nothing to do for children content.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with it was propaganda. You know what I'm saying? Like with the end result being to make somebody think a certain way
Mm-hmm.
so that they could be angry at people. You know what I'm saying? And it was like,
Yep.
what is this?
Yeah. Yeah, and it truly sucks, And what I think is happening here is that these creators, obviously, they pump money into these ads, and then these ads are dispersed out to millions of viewers, right?
Right.
Because most of us know that whenever you actually pay for promo, pay for advertisement, you get to select the locations, the age of the groups and age
Yep.
of people you want the advertisement to reach, et cetera, et cetera. So what does technology do, right? They're going to put it across multiple platforms, multiple people's devices and stuff. So I feel like it's very dangerous, and just the past 3 weeks, I would have to have a very serious conversation with Liani. Um, regarding that. And it got to a point where, you know what, I think I'm gonna have to delete Roblox. It got to a point where, you know what, whenever you're watching cartoons, you have to show us what you're watching. That way we can give you the okay to watch, because it does affect their behavior. You know, it does affect the way they see their perspective. You know, to her, it was normal to say that. You know, to her, it was normal to get angry. So what I actually ended up doing, uh, so she can, you know, understand, I do tell her, listen, it's okay to be upset. Those emotions that you're feeling right now, you know, because they get upset when you take away the iPad. They get
Of
upset
course.
when you don't let them watch specific content like what they're used to. And I did mention to her, I'm like, you know what, you're not gonna. I think we took away the iPad for a few days. The longest we've done it was almost a week. Um, Again, talking to her to let her know it's okay to feel those emotions. You just have to know how to control it. Those aren't the type of responses you want to give someone. There's right ways of doing things. There's better ways for you to express yourself, et cetera, et cetera. I switched it up, man, and I was like giving her ideas. Like, listen, this is what I want you to do. I want you to watch educational videos. These educational videos has to do with planets, learning about the planets. There was another one that had to do with emotions, right? It's an emotion song, and it mentions every single emotion, right? Excited, happy, sad. That way she can identify each and knows, you know, the feeling that she's going to get for each. And there's a few others, but strictly educational videos. Funny enough, she's barely using the iPad. And just to test it, um, she would get on Roblox, but she wouldn't even last long playing Roblox. All because of the control, all of because of the limits we put now, you know. But we didn't know anything, you know. Her mom, goes to school and works. On my end, I'm always working on something, right? And it's like there's many times where we're like, you know what, just go ahead, grab the iPad. But now we have to be very careful, because we don't know the dark turn that that may take, especially in schools. They're already learning things in school, right? From others. And it's like, it's a battle for us as parents, a battle because whatever they're learning, they learn in school and they bring it back home, right? Obviously, if you're one that gives discipline and you're very strict, um, all that can go out the window as soon as they step out of the house, you know? And it's like, I look at it like whatever they learn, they're going to implement, right? Because they're in the learning stages. We're here to teach them right from wrong. And it's a continuous battle. So imagine them learning, having bad influence outside of the home, in schools, in the playground, and then on top of that, they're receiving somewhat of the same or worse via devices, technology, which is why we have to set limits. We have to set limits. Um, yeah, when I seen that change, man, it was like a whole 360. It was, oh, you know, sometimes we say they're growing. No, they are growing. They are growing. But what are we doing to make sure that they stay away from certain things? What are we doing to make sure that they understand things, right? Which is something that we've mentioned from the beginning in multiple episodes, how it's very important to have communication, to have that communication, to have that connection. It's very, very important. And we don't want things to get worse. You don't want your child to be a brat. You know what I mean? Um, and it's like we have to stay connected with them. We have to. And you know, we feel bad at times when we have to take away these devices. But at the same time, there's times when we have to do it. We have to do it to avoid them from becoming something that they shouldn't, right? We have to avoid from them behaving a certain way. Um, and yeah, most recent, that's exactly what I had to do, man. I had to like remove all that. I'm thinking about deleting that Roblox too. You know, I have her doing like mixing and matching, right? It's like memory games, numbers, letters, shapes, colors. I've been doing that a lot more. And you know where I think my mistake was, to be honest? I got to be real. My mistake was not so much when she was on her iPad, is whenever she didn't have her iPad, I would give her mine. So now she's exposed to more videos on YouTube.
Right.
Just
You know,
automatic, you know?
and you know, I'm glad you talked about like the Roblox stuff because there was something that you said that just brought something to my attention when like you mentioned like the violent stuff, you know. Now I'm one that I could tell you like, you know, violent games like an action movie, right? If you know what you're going into, like us as grown-ups, as adults, you watch an action movie, you know, a lot of it you just find comical, you know, like it's kind of whatever, right? But as a child, you know, their imaginations are a little bit more, you know, not so developed. A lot of the things they take a little bit more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's funny because like, you know, like my daughter, she plays a game where like essentially like you adopt pets and all this other stuff. And you got all these pets and it's like, you know, big time, like, you know, a big, real popular game on there.
Yeah.
But then they got these other games where it's like, nah, you're literally like killing the other characters. You know what I'm saying? I've seen there's a game on there where you're shooting the characters, you're throwing knives at the characters, you're doing all these different things, and it
Yeah.
seems funny. You know, the way in which it's painted, it's like it seems funny. Like there's a weapon there that when you kill them, it plays like John Cena's entrance music, so it seems comical. It's like because you're hearing these things happen and all this other all you know all the time, and you're like, okay, it's not a big thing, it's not a big thing, it's not a big thing, whatever, you know. But the thing is, it's like that's the kind of content that desensitizes you to things. You know what I'm saying? Because what
Mm-hmm.
happens when you start to take that in? Let's be honest, most of these kids are not on that for 5 minutes. They're on that for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours a day. They're constantly on there throughout the week. You know what I'm saying? So they're playing, and they're playing, and they're playing, and they're playing, and they're playing. Well then, I mean, what do you think that they're taking in? You know what I'm saying? It's not a big
Big time.
thing. So it's like, you know, I see Carol writes right there. That's another reason why these young teenagers go out there and massacre a bunch of people is because of the videos, video games, content that they be exposed to. And you know, I'm one that normally I try to be very, very careful with that. But the bottom line is, bro, I've seen kids my son's age, you know, like fresh out of kindergarten, maybe even in kindergarten, playing Call of Duty. You got no business playing Call of Duty at that age. I'm sorry, you just don't. You know what I'm saying? It's like what's the purpose of giving you a game for you to play for 5 hours where you shooting around with guns, where the people are like dying on the screen and everything? It gets to a point where it does desensitize you at that age. Because then what happens? You see it happen and it's not a big deal. You know? It's not a big deal. I mean, under certain circumstances, it's tragic and everybody feels it, you know? But come on, man, we're at the point, let's be honest. Let's really be honest. When we hear about a bunch of kids being killed at a school, right? All of us are feeling it. The little ones are feeling it. The teenagers are feeling it. The young adults, the grown up, the elderly, everybody's feeling it, right? But come on, man, when you see the headline over 4th of July weekend, this many people were killed, this many people were shot, this many people that. Does it really have the same effect as when you hear that it was the kids though? I'll give you a really great example. When we heard about the shooting in Illinois over 4th of July, most people were like, oh, here
Oh
we go.
yeah.
Most people, oh, here we go again. It was not a big thing. You want to know when it was a big thing for people? When they said the picture of this toddler that everybody had seen. I think he was a toddler. He wasn't more than 4 years old at the most, but I think he was less than that. This picture of this toddler by himself was because the gunman had shot his two parents. That's when people were like, oh my God, so sad. But until you heard that story, people were desensitized to it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, it's not that big. Yeah, it sucks. It's just another shooting. Go America, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, even the teenagers are feeling the same way, bro. And they haven't even gone through life like that yet. But you know what? A lot of them have been exposed to the shooting games for weeks. You know what I'm saying? Excuse me, for years. They played Call of Duty the last 5, 6 Call of Duties. Again, I'm not saying that the game is evil. I'm not telling you that. But what I'm telling you is know the content that you're taking in, the content that your kids are taking in, how much of the content they're taking in. And are you evaluating the content that your kids are taking to be like, nah, you ain't playing that. Bro, I remember one time Toys R Us would have their little buy two, get one free sales. I remember going in, save some money, get a couple of games, and it would be a thing of like, I remember one time I walked in there and the new Assassin's Creed game had come out. Okay, it's like a movie. Dope story, fire. You know what? I think I'm going to get a copy for myself. So I grabbed it with one of the other games. What happens? The person in front of me is a mom there with a kid that was no older than 7 or 8 years old. And she was like, my son wants a new Assassin's Creed game. You got that? Bro, seriously? Like, this kid is not more than 7 years old. He's here in Toys R Us.
The title itself is already
Assassin's Creed. Bro, what are you doing as a parent?
Mm-hmm.
Because let's be honest, you're not sitting there as a parent with your child being like, I know that you're killing this child. I know that you're doing this. I know that you're doing that. I know that you're killing these people, whatever. But that's not real, and we shouldn't do that in real. You're not sitting there as a parent doing that. You bought them the game, and now you're going to go handle your business while the little kid sits in the corner playing a bunch of games in his room where you ain't even seeing it. You know what I'm saying? And what if they're playing online? Bro, the way some of these people talk online, I don't even play with a headset on, man. Ever. Because I was like, I don't need that kind of toxicity in my life. Mm-hmm. Because people are so ugly online that it's like, I could be playing a basketball game online or something like that. I'm not interested in talking with people because people don't have anything nice to say the majority of the time. So why do I need to entertain my life with that? You know what I'm saying? But imagine a little kid who the cool thing is to be online, and that's what they're taking in is what other people are saying on top of playing the content that they shouldn't play. Then you wonder why they're desensitized to so much. But you bought them the babysitter, though. You know what I'm saying? So who's responsible? And then I asked, you got to ask the question, bro. And I think you already gave part of the answer. But I think we can go more in depth on that because everybody has their own opinion.
We definitely can.
When you buy the child the device, when you buy the child the game, when you install the app, when you install this, when you let them onto that content, why? Like, what's your reasoning for doing it? You know what I'm saying? Is it because you want them to enjoy themselves, or is it because you need a break? Because I'm gonna tell you, I think a lot of parents just do not want to deal with these don't want to deal with these kids the way that they should. I'll give you a great example, bro. When you go to a restaurant and you see a bunch of parents giving the child the phone, right? Are you giving the child the phone because you want them to be entertained, or are you giving the child the phone because you don't want to deal with disciplining them in the middle of the restaurant or in the get-together or at this place or that place in the store? Is it because, are you giving it to them to entertain them, or is part of it is that you don't want to deal with the discipline in that moment? Because, bro, that's why we got so many kids that today are undisciplined. Because the parents are like, the easiest thing in my life right now would be to not discipline you and just give you the device so you can shut up, please. Let's be honest. That's
and
the
they
mindset.
know this. And they know this.
And they know this.
And they know this. They'll pick up on that very fast.
I think we got some comments here. Let's read some of these, bro. I'm gonna read some of these out.
Yeah. Funny enough, I went up top. There's a list of comments actually.
Ooh, okay. You want to go to where you're starting off?
Yeah. As a teacher, I can tell which students, especially boys, watch inappropriate videos by how they treat girls and their moms. They're almost always physically aggressive towards them and disrespectful. I strongly agree.
You know what? Funny enough, one day, I'll share a little testimony here. One day I was at church, out of all places, and there was a mom coming out with her son. I don't even remember what the heck the son was doing. He had wanted to do something. The mom was like putting a stop. And when he came out, the mom was like trying to correct him, like, no, you're not going to do this. I mean, you're the parent. You set the rules, right? I mean, that's how it should be. So she goes in and she tells him that. And I was picking something up. You know, afterwards, I like to clean up outside, make sure everything's nice and neat for, you know, just for people to come to a clean environment, right? And neither one of them noticed that I was there as they're coming out the door. And all of a sudden, the kid was like, he didn't go, no, mom. He went, no, and called her by her name. And was like, you don't want to let me do this because you're being stupid or something like that, the kid said to her.
Mm.
And I was like, I just did that double take, like, yo. And the mom caught me, like, that I was there. And she was like, no, so-and-so. Stop joking around there. Stop playing. Yo, no. That's not a stop playing thing. Number one, you know you got caught, and that's probably how your kid talks to you at home. And number two, nah, fam. I don't care if it's a joke or not. My kids don't disrespect me with jokes like that, bro. We don't do that. You know what I'm saying? You go ahead and do that. We gonna have a long talk. You know what I'm saying? It's not to say that I'm gonna whoop you, but you're gonna definitely catch some ill repercussions for that one. Because we don't play that game. My kids don't talk to us like that. Ever. And sometimes when they talk to each other like that, when they try to be rude to each other, yo, we stop them right in that moment. Nah, sit down, fam. We don't play like that. You know, we don't do that. So, crazy. She's absolutely right. You can see the kids that do it. All right, next comment, bro. What next comment?
There's let me make sure. We also have a video request.
Oh, okay.
Hold on. That's another reason why these young teenagers go out there and massacre a bunch of people. It's because the video games, the context they've been exposed to. Yes. Yep. The brainwashing. It's another comment there. Wow. So I guess when you brought up the whole thing with the teenager, they found him underneath his parents.
It was a child. I think he was 4 years old or less. Might have been 2.
Oh, toddler. That's right.
Yeah. Crazy. That's sad, man. That's sad.
Yeah, I had to make my sons delete like 3 games, and he cried. But I noticed that his attitude had been changing with these games. Yep.
You got to do what you got to do. Because the thing is, if you don't, do you want to play? Do you want to pay the repercussions later? Because there will be a point in which you cannot control that anymore.
Yep, and they can battle with people they don't even know. Complete strangers can't even be child molesters.
Bro, you know it. For those of y'all that don't believe it, yo, human trafficking is a thing.
Yeah.
It is. I remember one time, bro, my oldest daughter was, she started playing Minecraft. And from Minecraft, she got on Minecraft Online. And after being on Minecraft Online, she joined a Discord server, which is essentially a chat server. And in the chat server, she started talking to people. And long story short, like, there was a point in which she didn't send a picture of herself, but she sent a picture. She's like a big, like, you know, animal lover, right? So she sent a picture of a cat that had come to our backyard. And bro, you know how dangerous it is to take a picture and share it. These pictures nowadays don't just contain a picture. These pictures nowadays contain geolocation, which, if you don't know, when you take a picture on most of your devices nowadays, by default, unless you turn it off, they mark the location. So now you know exactly where they took the picture. And like I said to a lot of people who are watching right now, earlier, We track everything, bro. My wife and I, we track everything. So when we caught that phone and we saw that, yo, the convo that we had to have about, yo, um, yeah, you know what you just sent out? You just sent out a location to our house. Anybody could take you from our house. You go walk the
Mm-hmm.
dog in the front, in the front yard. We've even made a point just because you never know what weirdos are out there. My
Mm-hmm.
daughter never goes to walk the dog in the front yard. Never. We don't do
Yeah.
that. Ever. We don't play that.
And we have to be super careful because I remember I came across some content that actually, it was a gentleman who, a predator, and he admitted in the video that he actually his target are single moms. His target are single moms. I wish I can find that content. This I came across this on Instagram. Single moms, because all he has to do, he's a loving guy, caring. People, it's the last thing they would expect, for him to be, doing that type of damage to the single women and going after these both boys and girls, and I can't remember if he was already locked up or if this was just an anonymous interview, to be very honest, which is why I want to come across the material, the content, so I can go ahead and share it. But it's very out here. In a relationship, you have people out there who would just sit in a park and you don't know what they're doing out there, just sitting, watching, which is why whenever I'm at a park or anywhere, I stay on top of Liani. I
At all
can't leave her
times.
alone for not 1 second. I don't
Yeah.
care. Oh, she's playing with her friend over there, and her parents seem nice. No, cool.
Don't care about that.
I'm gonna stand right there and make sure my daughter's okay. You never know when they're giving away candy, right? Something that we told Liani is, if anyone offers candy, you better come to mom and dad and ask if it's okay, right? Right off the top, it's not. But if you ever have to think twice about it, just come to us and ask us, and we'll give you the answer. So no, you don't know what they're doing. You don't know what they're doing. There's people out there who are super sick. They're sick. And it doesn't have to be anything that has to do with kidnapping. Sometimes you never know how malicious people can be, how they can actually just wish the worst thing on you. And it'll make your child go into a certain condition, vegetable state. I would just want to take it straight to the worst case scenario. To do
Or
damage.
they'll lead them into a point where of manipulation, where
Yeah.
all of a sudden that person deals with depression,
Yep.
deals with anxiety, all these different things, because it's like there's something that makes you feel good about the fact that I can manipulate you.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's call it what it is. Some people, what they want, what gets them off is, I have power.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can make you feel a certain way, that's something that makes me feel good. That entertains me. So it's like, how many people aren't suffering because somebody else wants to have a stronghold over them? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Believe it or not, even if we talk about it, I feel like we should always talk about it. There should be more conversations, raise more awareness. But you're always going to find vulnerable people out there who are going to fall for it because of their situation. Sometimes we're all aware, we know who we are. I can hold myself down, right? I pray on a daily basis. But then you have people out there who don't even believe in themselves, who don't believe in God. And they feel like, you know what, that their way is the only way. And like, I can give a perfect example. If there's a single mom or dad who doesn't make enough money, but they feel like they need someone, not because they're feeling them, not because that person is for them, but because their income is for them, for their situation. you know, and that can bring a lot of problems, which is why we hear about stories where there's dads who don't accept um, their stepdaughters, or moms who don't accept their stepsons. You know, uh, there's different situations, and it's truly sad that these parents aren't really taking any action and making sure, having that connection with their child, having that communication, knowing that something is wrong, but you know, eventually my kids are going to be big, they're going to grow, they're going to move out, and then what about me? If I feel like you're with someone who's not going to support you, support your family, and make your situation easy, not difficult, not making you choose sides. They have to meet you halfway. You know, there's multiple situations out there, which we get it, but don't ignore the red flags. To make a long story short,
Yeah.
don't ignore the red flags. If you ever come across red flags, you have to pay attention to that. You don't want your child or children to be affected by it. You don't know what's going on whenever you're not present. We hear about it, we read about it, we've read about it in the past, right? Child molesters,
Yep.
um, even parents hurting their stepkids. So it's like, you know, we have to be very careful. Let me go ahead and read the other comments. We have a few. Make sure. Okay, Penn commented, Carol, good for you, mom, for noticing and taking action, giving her credit. Lots of parents are clueless or too busy working multiple jobs. Even at
It's
church, I see
true.
the parent give their kids phones at church.
Easy way to
Yep.
take care of them. I've trust me, I've seen it. There's been times that I've been preaching,
Hmm.
and when you're up there, you'll be shocked at the things that you notice. You know,
Yeah.
like, and that's one of them. That's one of them.
Yep. Penn said, as a single mom, I believe what you said. I paid attention to the people my daughters were scared of or quiet around, getting goosebumps. Kids feel things that they can't always verbalize. Yes,
Yep.
yes, because they're still learning how to express themselves. They're still learning like what's wrong from right, you know, and basically anything that our children come across, whatever it is that we introduce to them, or other people, they only know what's right from wrong because of the discipline that they receive, because of the
Absolutely.
communication, right? Because of the communication. You just have to be open. You have to be open with them.
You know, and actually,
So,
there's one thing that I like about that comment. When she mentions at the end, kids feel things that they can't always verbalize. That's the
verbalize. Yep.
importance of why we can't, become a slave to this as parents. Because what
Hmm.
happens is that if you're, and trust me, it's not just this, it's anything that takes you away from spending time with your kids, because it could be work. For some people, it's work, right? That of going and being able to spend time with them, because the more time that you spend with them, the more you get to have a relationship with them. And in having
Hmm.
the relationship with them, you know more about how they typically act. So if all of a sudden, if you have a very good relationship with them, you know what they look like, you know how they typically act, you know when they're sad, when they're happy, when things are good, when something's wrong, when you know all these things, you can know even in moments where they're not saying anything, you could tell by the body language, even if it's as simple as the body language. You start
Yeah.
observing and you're like, hold up, you're being a little quiet today.
Something's off. Yeah.
Like, how are you doing? I'm fine. Hold up. It's normally not how she responds. Now you
Yeah.
start to dig a little bit more. You ask a little bit more questions just to see if the response changes, the attitude changes.
Hmm.
And eventually, that allows you to, because you already know them, you've had the relationship, you know how they respond, you know how they act. It doesn't matter that they're not verbalizing anything. The fact that they're not verbalizing it, a lot of how they're acting at the very minimum exposes that something's up. And now you start digging and digging. Bro, I don't know about you. I'm one that I don't take fine or whatever as an
No.
answer. Bro, I will dig until they get annoyed, and eventually they're just like, no, it's nothing, you know? And then what happens? Because I'm digging and digging and digging just to get me to stop.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, it'll be like, well, and here
Yeah.
comes, you know? And now we have the conversation. And it'll
And
be
you're right.
something that it's like, I didn't want to talk about it. You know, I didn't want to talk about
Mm-hmm.
it. This person made me feel this way. This person did this, did that, whatever. And I'd be like, okay, but you can't be hiding that.
Yeah.
You
And
know,
after a
that's
while,
not
they'll
you.
get used to it.
Exactly.
Yeah, they'll get used to it. The simple fact that whatever happens in school, whatever happens in the playground, whatever happens anywhere, at a birthday party, whatever it is, they're gonna tell you about it. The more you talk to them, they'll be a lot more open. You
And
know, they're
again,
gonna
that's the
feel comfortable.
importance of having the relationship. If you're
Have to
stuck
have it.
behind a lot of things, spending your time at work, spending your time on the screen, spending your time binge watching, whatever,
Yeah.
yo, watch what watch what that's robbing you from. Because like I spoke about earlier, one is a relationship with God. Now you start idolizing something else. But the other is the ministry that you've been given, that all of us have been given as parents, which is your kids, your family. And if you don't got that connection with your family, believe me, that's going to start going down the wrong road.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want to
You
go
know
down that
what?
road.
There's another, so like that we can also get to the video. There's an anonymous
Oh,
question.
okay. What's up?
This is good, and I can definitely give a suggestion, a good advice too, because it's something that I've dealt with. In my case, I monitor my child's games and shows. Everything is educational. So yes, I do give my child electronic and stay entertained when out eating sometimes. Does that still mean I'm doing something wrong as a parent? To be very honest, you're not doing anything wrong. You're actually doing the right thing because it's educational videos or games. Now, where I think we do fail is if we give them the device whenever they're out eating. I feel like they're supposed to learn how to eat, have lunch, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and know how to interact, right? Sometimes when you're out eating, you should be focusing on just eating, taking a break mentally. You know what I mean? Keep your eyes and ears off, your eyes off of a show, your ears away from music, because music all the time isn't good, right? Um, I feel like start taking away the device, even if you're out eating, and have them learn how to, stay at ease. Because sometimes they're out of control because they're so used to having the device in front of them. Sometimes they get out of control because they want to go ahead and receive the device. Oh, you know what? If I start acting up, I know I'm gonna get the iPad. If I get a spoonful, right? Like if they're serving, I'm sorry, feeding me, and I get up and start like running or walking back and forth to away from the table and back to the table, maybe they'll give me the iPad, and that way I can just sit down and do what I want to do. And I dealt with this again a few weeks ago, getting Liana used to sitting at the table and eating her food. How will we do that? Ask her how their day is. Ask them how they're feeling. How was school? Or any activity that they attended that day, by just having a conversation so they can get used to not having the device,
Right.
not having it at all. Go ahead and substitute it with communication, substituting it with attention. Um, and there's going to be situations where you're probably having a dinner with family. They're with their cousins, and they all have iPads, right? The majority of kids nowadays, they have iPads. Then that could be an exception. Like, okay, you know what? We don't do this all the time. You can go ahead and use the device. But to have it on a regular basis, I don't think that does any good. Any good.
Yeah, I think you're right, bro. On one hand, definitely a good thing in the sense of like you're monitoring the content and you're making sure to give good content, so that's right there. That's a big W. You got a huge win on that end. But at the same time, it's like you mentioned. Are there instances in which you can give them the device? Absolutely, there are. You know, but don't make it a constant habit for the reason that you don't want to program them into thinking that they're always going to get it. And at the same time, if you choose to not give it to them initially, if they're addicted to it, because we got to be honest, a lot of the kids are addicted to it, right? That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We need them to understand that this is not a device that you're going to have at all times. You need to learn that there are times for everything. So this time should be a time for family. This time should be a time to be with our friends. This time should be a time to be at church. This time should be a time for you to focus on school. This time should be a time for you to do X, Y, Z. You know what I'm saying? And what happens is you can very easily fall into the trap of not disciplining them on there's a time for everything. And that's how we get into the situation of people not being able to focus. Case in point, somebody that I know will not put the phone down while they're driving. They're driving the whole time with the phone in their hand, looking at the phone in their hand. And I know that they're not the only ones guilty of it, because I see people most of the time, if I'm on the freeway and I see somebody, doing just a boneheaded move, and I go and I look, they're on their phone.
On the phone.
They're not paying attention. And it's not like down here. They're literally like, bro, how are you looking at the road if you got the phone all the way up here? Like right in your face. You know what I'm saying? No, that's not the move. So, but that kind of stuff happens when we don't discipline people on there's a time for everything. So definitely a big W, a huge win on making sure to be on top of them with the content. But are there times where you can make exceptions and give them the device? Absolutely. Just don't make that the norm. Start getting them into realizing that they need to have these times of social interaction, whether it's with their family, their friends, or focusing on the task at hand without that item with them.
Yep. Go ahead and make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, let's go ahead and connect. We got Jay. Let's see. Hopefully, we don't have any issues connecting.
Hey, what's good, Jay?
What's going on, everybody? God bless.
Jay, you went for a run, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm still out here.
Nice, man. Nice.
I just wanted to chime in quickly on the thing for parents. One of the things that I would like to share as a testimony is that a lot of parents that are around the ages in their 30s or in their 40s, in that cusp of years, a lot of us come from, like, at least in the Hispanic culture, right? We come from a culture where we have the mentality of, oh, we want to do, I want to be better with my kids than when my parents were with me, And I feel that in the community, and I think this can spread out to other demographics, right? So I think that as a parent in general, you do want the best for your kid. You want to do better than what you were treated, right? Growing up, the question is,
Yes.
At what point do you divide that? Because you're supposed to be a parent, not a friend. And a lot of parents think that they have to be their children's a friend versus their parent. First friend, then parent. And it's the other way around. First parent, then friend. And I think that sometimes as adults, we have to stop for a minute and reflect on that. What am I being for my child right now? What role am I representing? What principles am I, teaching my child? One. Then to add to that, we have in the society that we live in, you know, one of the things that's very difficult to understand because or to catch really is because we become part of the system is that we tend to try to live a lifestyle to be like the Johnsons, you know. If Billy Joe Bob does this with their kids, we want to do it as well because this is what works, you know. The problem is that each kid has its own character, its own personality, you know.
Yeah.
One. Number two is, and the most important one actually, is that some of these kids don't have a Christian foundation, you know. And then if a parent is not taking the time to reflect upon themselves and say, hey, you know, again, who am I and what am I showing and teaching my child, you know, we have a problem. There's a problem within itself because we're just going by with what we're living by day to day versus reflecting upon ourselves and how we're carrying out that parenthood. And then to 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 add insult to injury on that, one of the things that as parents, because of that lifestyle, of the busy lifestyle that we have, we sometimes try to take the easy way out with our kids. And let me elaborate with this. You know, a lot of times, you know, I find myself remembering when my mom or my parents from the past, you know, or the elders from the past, they would say, hey, this kid is smarter, you know, he's going to teach us things. But then that doesn't mean that while I was growing up, you know, I was going to be teaching the old folks stuff. No, the old folks needed to sit down with me and understand, hey, what is this guy getting into? What is he doing? You know, make sure that the technology that's becoming available for the children, I'm learning it too. The software, the games, the music, everything that the kids are learning, I need to be a part of because that's how I know is being fed into their mind. And a lot of parents, we don't take the time to do that. We don't take the time to learn that. So when you start seeing what we're seeing in society now with these mass attacks and all this other stuff, a lot of time it's because there's a deficit of love and attention to a child on top of the spiritual. So, sorry, I'm out of breath. So, you know, it's so important that, you know, as a parent, you know, if we want to see an overall well-being of mind and spirituality of our children, we have to step in also and see what role, what part are we playing in their lives. Just because a new game comes out or whatever doesn't mean that, okay, well, I'm going to get it. No, you need to sit down and actually see what this game's about. What's it all about? Because when you don't know nothing, it's like you're handing a knife to a child and then they can hurt themselves, you know, or others. And then one of the things that I've been catching a lot of as well is that, you know, on the topic of sitting down at the table, you know, yes, it's fine. You know, you can sit your child at the table. You can have them enjoy their iPad, like Carlos was saying. But at the same time, it's kind of like, what are we feeding our children, right? If we're constantly, you know, to Carlos' point, if we're constantly feeding burgers and fries and all the negative food to our child because they don't want to eat their veggies, because they don't want to eat their fruits, what are we doing to them? See, this is something that we have to think. Technology and everything that tools that are available to us are just like that. Just because it's there and it's easy access, is like fast food, but it's not good for the soul. So that's where I'm calling all parents to step up and make sure that whatever it is that their children are embracing, that the parents too embrace it, whether it be technology, music, television, whatever it is. And really embrace it for the sake of your child. Not because you want to be your child's friend, not because you want to sit down with them and have a good time, which you can, but more importantly, it's just to see what is it that you're feeding their minds and their soul, you know? So this is why I wanted to chime in, because parents, you have the power. Parents, you have the authority. Those who are out there listening right now, it's, you know, the key's in your hand, you know? What type of children and family that you're gonna have totally depends on you. what do you instill in your family? Because not doing anything is probably more poisonous than being negative in your family. And I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you why. Because I grew up, I remember that it was a struggle growing up for us. We would see fights, we would see um, shootings. I mean, all kinds of things growing up. And you can say we were desensitized, but at the same time, our parents were like, "Hey, this is why you need to be home at this time. You need to do this," and they were serious. I think that some parents like to instill fear in children versus actually educating them on good and bad. And I think it's a very gray area, and I think that it's so important that as a parent, we know that we talk to the children and have them grounded. Because people who don't have to go through the struggle, people who didn't know what it was to live in the ghetto in the suburbs or whatever you want to call it, they really don't understand um, the realness of the bad that's out there, and therefore they're susceptible to the negative atmosphere, to the negative energies, to all the negative spiritual stuff that's out there, and they can go out there and causes damage because their parents are giving them what they want because they want to be their friends and they love them, or they just really want to get them off. But yet again, there's that deficit of love and attention. So they're calling out attention. And if they don't know the reality of things, if they've never been grounded and educated, then this is why we have what we have. But this is, again, I just wanted I don't know, it was in my heart. I wanted to share with the parents. Parents, step up, take ownership. It's in your hands. You are the backbone of the family. So what your children do, for the most part, it's a direct representation of who you are and what you've instilled in them. So that's all I wanted to share with you
100.
guys.
Appreciate that, man.
Thank you, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope everyone lets that sink in, because he broke it down. And it's very true. It's very true what he said. All of what he said.
Yeah, we got amen and true to what Jay put.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, we got a bingo in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he hit the nail on the head, bro. He hit the nail on the head.
Yeah,
crazy. So I think if you were blessed by what Jay had to say, drop a heart in there.
Drop a heart in
as
the
well.
chat.
He really nailed that. Really, really nailed that.
And again, if there's anyone that wants to go ahead and connect, feel free. Feel free to join. Put your testimony out there. There's a lot of people who need to hear it from multiple parents, because there's a lot of things that our children go through. A lot that can be very similar and different that we can all learn from each other.
I don't know why I feel the need to say this. I know that God's wanting to talk there, and it's giving people the conviction more than anything else of His forgiveness for us, right? But many parents make the mistake of making a mistake and then wanting to rectify the mistake by giving the child what they want. You know what I'm saying? Because unfortunately, we as parents are not perfect. There's no instruction manual to this. We've never gone through it. Even if you have gone through it, each child's personality is different. So what might have worked for one child does not work for another and doesn't work for the next one. I mean, it's just how it is. And a lot of times we can feel guilty about the mistakes that we feel that we made. And I want to say feel that we made, because in some cases they are mistakes and in other cases they're not. But because a child reacts a certain way, we feel bad, right? So it's the discerning, it's discernment in the sense of, You need to realize when you discipline and it sucks that the kid takes it a certain way and it hurts and you don't want to see them sad. And it's a complete another thing to actually be wrong as a parent to handle a situation a certain way. You know, when you might be sinning against the child, you know, or you might be sinning against God by treating the child in a certain way because you reacted to it the wrong way, you know, or dealt with it the wrong way. But the important thing is to remember that you have to be easy on yourself. God sees the
Yes.
repentance if you
Yes.
have dealt with it the wrong way. He sees the heart. God knows your heart as a parent, but at the same time, the way to fix it is not to give them what they want. You might be you might be there making two mistakes. You might be compounding a mistake with a mistake because you are then showing if you made a mistake, hey, I made a mistake and I'm going to admit the mistake by giving you what you want, which in and of itself is a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the double whammy right there. You messed up here and then you messed up here too. So now you messed up double, you know, and you really causing issues because now that's how you get into kids later on becoming people that are manipulative by making people think like, okay, if I want to get what I want, let me just make you feel bad about what you did, even though you might not be a person that did anything, you know. But I'm gonna learn that it's always okay to not put the blame on myself and instead guilt trip in the hopes of I'll receive what I want by guilt tripping. You know what I'm saying? So as a parent, you know, know that God sees the heart. Ask God for direction on what to do with the child. Know that if you make them feel bad, it does not always mean that, you know, that you've done anything wrong. Discipline sucks. It just does. But you know, God sees the heart in that. Speaking of discipline, I see that Angie has joined us on. She can speak on discipline, I'm sure. You know, her stepdad is very strong on discipline, which I'm sure was not always easy. So, you know, I mean, his Taekwondo school's name is the House of Discipline. So you already know what's going to go down when you go in there. You know what I'm saying? So it does not mean that it's easy. It does not mean that somebody's not going to get their feelings hurt or feel a certain way. But when you're disciplining with that love, it's always with the best of intentions. But you don't compound it by giving somebody what they want. So absolutely,
and I want to go ahead and add on, man, because I feel like many have to hear this. You mentioned for others to be easy on themselves, and I strongly agree. There's many times when I feel like I have to be super, like really take that into consideration. We're all trying our best here. We all have different situations here.
Absolutely.
Prime examples would be there are many times where our children are limited as to what they can do based on your finance, right? Not everyone can afford multiple activities. Some of us can only afford one, maybe two, maybe three, whatever the case is different for everyone. For many of us, the state that we live in, we have summer 2 months out of the year, or let me go ahead and rephrase that, great weather, which gives parents options. You know, let me go ahead and take my child to the park. So let's say a great example is like New York. Almost all year round, you're stuck indoors, right? Because of the cold weather, the snow. So you're very limited as to what you can do. Again, because some can't afford what others have, right? It's different for everyone. And one thing I gotta say, just be easy. Be easy on yourself. You know, sometimes we can get very frustrated. Sometimes most of us want to take it out on the child. And I'm not just mentioning physical, even verbally, you know, verbally. Many of us can be overwhelmed, right? We overreact. And again, like you mentioned, many times we want to give our child or children what they want because of errors, mistakes that we've made, right? And that can be one. oh, I spoke to him or her so bad. Um, I got to make it up, you know. And I think the best way to make it up is being aware of that mistake you made, avoiding letting any situation or feeling that you may have um, to not take it out on the child, you know. Don't take it out. Be very patient. Know that you're trying your best. For some of us, we have multiple jobs. It's hard for us to spend time and with our child. But one thing that I can put out is my father's one who's worked hard for many years.
Facts.
Thank God he's retired now. He's worked hard for many years, and when I say worked hard, is two jobs, sleeping 3 hours. Luckily he was off on the weekends, and I never felt like he was absent in my life. I
Facts.
feel like he was always there, you know. Um, and I grew up understanding that he had to do what he had to do in order for us to have everything we had, to live the life that we were living, to take those vacations that luckily, and thank God we were able to take every year for a whole month, for years. And again, communication, having that connection with your children is very important because we do understand along the way, right? Um, there's been rough patches, right? Where I felt like, okay, I wanted to not, I didn't want to be home all the time. I feel like the way that I viewed it, I felt like there was a lot of things missing. So I wanted to hang out late and a lot of things. But I have to say that even through those rough paths, I've learned so much. And one thing that has kept me in place was the discipline that I received from both my parents, right? Even when my father worked in the two jobs, I've always received the discipline and I've always had every single thing that they said to me in the back of my mind. And believe me, there were situations that I could have been in, and I just didn't allow myself because of everything that I learned from them, the things that I had to avoid, people trying to influence me to do something, and I've always had them in the back of my mind. And that's just that it's priceless. It's priceless. And I feel like because of that, I've learned so much, and I'm making sure that I give my child the same life that I lived and even better. Anything that I was missing or that I want to do different to make sure that I'm there all the time. Sometimes we get overwhelmed, we get overwhelmed. Um, Sometimes we feel like we have the need um, to work and not find a way because this is it. This is it. I just have to work. I'm paying the bills. Um, there's food on the table. You have a roof over your head. That's it. No, make sure that you change your situation. If you feel like you're getting overwhelmed, look for the solution. Look for the solution. What can I do to go ahead and eliminate my second job? Is what you should ask yourself. What is it that I have to do to spend more time with my child? What is it that I have to do to make sure that they feel comfortable with me? What is it that I have to do to make sure that when I'm not around, no one else is trying to lead them down the wrong path, to influence them into things where they or places that they don't belong? Because it's very easy to fall into a trap nowadays. You know,
You know,
it's very easy.
as you're saying that, and something that you said earlier, I know that God makes everything happen for a reason. There was something that I heard someone tell me today, a child tell me today, and it falls right in line. It's funny because this all has to do with iPads and YouTube and all that kind of stuff and different situations. And something that you said right now, and what you just finished saying right now, and something that you said a little bit earlier that was very key. You know, you made mention that, like, okay, all the situations are different, right? So you're talking about like
Mm-hmm.
some are blessed with, like, you know, nice weather 2 months out of the year. Some are blessed, like people that live in California, have beautiful weather the entire year. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Same temperature pretty much the entire year, typically entirely sunny. So it's like you have the consistency that you can do more. But it's not just about the weather, it's also about financial situations, in the
Yes.
sense that New York and other cities, it's not just about the fact that you have the weather is different, but the cost of living is different.
Mm-hmm.
So where you might be making the same in New York as somebody that's, let's say, in Florida, in Texas, in Illinois, you know, Chicago, wherever, um, those are different things. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are failing. It's just where you are
Yeah.
makes the situation different. And this child shared something. You know, him and my son, they were watching YouTube videos, whatever. And the kid made mention, you know, my son goes, "Oh, so and so said that they don't watch YouTube. Like their mom doesn't let them watch YouTube." And out of curiosity, you know, funny because we're talking about this topic today.
Mm-hmm.
I go, "Hey, out of curiosity, why?" You know, my mom doesn't like me watching YouTube because she gets frustrated. I go, but why the frustration though? Oh, it's because I watch content creators that are constantly going to places that I want to go to. Okay, time out. What do you mean? Oh, you know, they're taking trips. They might go to a little event. They might go to a water park. They might go to this. And of course, you know, these content creators, especially the ones that are families, they go and they record this stuff and the kids get to see it. It's an experience, you know, not taking into account that in some of these experiences, these places that they have a big enough following are paying them to go
Mm-hmm.
for the experience. So they're taking like the ill trips, you know, and it seems like they're living the life, but in reality, not all of that is paid for by them. It's paid for by
Yeah.
people that want them to go. You know, back in the day, I don't know about you, it's like uh I remember as kids we would watch the commercials for the toys and the stuff like that. I'm sure I had to drive our parents crazy, like, yo, this now they want this toy. You know what I'm saying? I know
Yeah.
that when my daughter used to watch Nickelodeon or Disney Channel or whatever, and the toy commercials be on, I'd be like, if it was recorded on the DVR, it'd be like, yo, skip straight to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. Like I don't want her to see the commercial. Like my pockets need a breather. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
nowadays the commercial is the experience that the content creator is putting out. So it's like you can't be hard on yourself as a parent because you're comparing yourself to what your child is probably looking at somewhere else. Because the fact is that that's not reality. Because your situation is different, not necessarily because of your job. It's not necessarily because you're failing, right? But the cost of living might be different. The weather
Yeah.
might be different. You have all these other factors that might be different. And it goes hand in hand with something that I was talking about with someone a few days ago, and it was we have really lost perspective on where the blessing is. Because when people hear like, yo, I'm blessed, they think that the blessing is financial. When in reality, the blessing is is the opportunity that God is giving you in that moment and what he's allowing you to be able to do
It
in
can
that
be
moment.
many things. Yeah. It can be many
Because
things.
why do I say that? You might think that the blessing is financial. You might think that the blessing is the experiences, right? And you could be tight like this child shared. The parent was frustrated because they can't give that child that experience, right? Even though it's unrealistic. But what if we take a different approach? Where's the blessing? For me, God might be blessing me with the ability to be able to walk with my child, enjoy time out with my child, go to the park with my child. Somebody else might not have the ability to walk, so they can't play basketball with their kid. They can't even take their kid to the park and enjoy these times. They can't even pick their child up. They can't pick up their 2-year-old because they're physically not capable of doing so because of the pain that it brings them, right? I've been very, very transparent in terms of like, we were financially up here and now we're financially like struggle, I mean, talk about night and day difference, like in one shot, right? Just done. And, because of that, we haven't done a lot of the experience. We used to go vacations. We used to go Disney, Universal. We used to take a trip here, a trip there. We went to Aruba one year. I mean, we balled out, in the trips. And in the last few years, that has not been possible to the point that along with COVID, a lot of things have been cut down, like where we just don't do it. And the other day, when we finished up, I think we finished up youth service or something like that. My wife tells me, "Hey, let's. I know it's late, but let's stop. At a location to go eat." I mean, we're talking like 10:30 at night when not much is open. Other than like diners like a Denny's, IHOP, whatever. And at first I was like, and then it was like, you know what? Okay, let's go. So I told the kids, y'all choose where you want to eat. And I gave them a few options. And we went to a diner that serves breakfast and dinner, right? All day. And so we went. And bro, it was a simple dinner. I mean, have you ever been to something like an IHOP? IHOP's not expensive. Similar places to IHOP are not expensive places. And it was just very basic. You know what I'm saying? But that experience, those kids were so happy, so vocal about being able to have that time. And all we're doing is sitting around a diner table, eating, talking, joking with nobody else. Nobody else. We didn't include anybody else. It was just us by ourselves, which is not something, with doing ministry, that's not something that you get a lot of opportunity to do, because a lot of times people want to gravitate and you're with people, and then the other time you're tired, right? But to them, man, that was probably just as good as a trip. And it was a simple dining experience. It wasn't even like a big deal, like financially. Imagine to them, bro, that was a huge blessing to be able to do that. Because it was a sacrifice of our time, and it was a sacrifice of a little bit of the finances. But with the sole purpose of let's enjoy our time together. No cell phones, no people. We're just sitting and we're talking. And we're joking around. And eat what you want. Like, you want breakfast for dinner? Go for it. Just enjoy it. You want a pancake? Have it. And I mean, we didn't need a fancy vacation to make that happen. A cheap dinner did that. Just us. You know what I'm saying? So this is why you cannot be hard on yourself. And my initial reaction was, I took that for granted. I was like, for what? But at the end of the whole thing, I was like, best decision that my wife brought up for us to make was that. I'm telling you, bro, it's that is another reason why all this stuff is very can be very dangerous, because we're comparing ourselves, and in the comparison we can get, like that mom said, we can get frustrated, at the
Hmm.
fact of like that you're watching and then you're bringing up these experiences that you want to have, and I can't give you that experience. It's just I'm a single mother. I can't do that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And unfortunately, it's the cards that you were dealt, and she is trying to do something better for her son,
Hmm.
but it's not easy. And when you hear about how well somebody else is doing, and bro, the thing is, some of these families, bro, they're making crazy YouTube money, which not everybody makes. They're being given the free trip. They live in states where the cost of living is super low, like the Carolinas. You know what I'm saying? Um, I mean, call it what it is. It's not the same experience. It's not the same living conditions. It's not the same everything, you know? So,
And my personal opinion on that, man, I feel like that should be fuel. You know what I mean? That
yeah,
should be fuel,
absolutely.
no matter what your situation is, because you never know who you're gonna come across. You never know what it is that you'll obtain from watching that content. At least it's not violent. It's really not bad influence, right? It's just seeing what's out there. And sometimes I feel like if we were to limit, especially with videos like that, like I don't see a problem with it. But again, this is my personal opinion. And by keeping our children away would actually stun their creativity. And you never know how far they can actually take it. You never know how they can possibly change your life around, right? Because they're learning things along the way. It's like if I were to tell you, just imagine if, hey, listen, you have to go. If I tell my daughter, you have to go to school, you have to do this. No, what I am going to tell her is, you know, it would be good, to finish school because, you want to be educated, you want to learn. But I don't think that I'm going to obligate her to go to college or university. I will have the conversation that it's good for you to go, like what major are you interested in, and have that and do some research to see what it is, what her passion is. But I'm not going to go ahead and force her into a specific major. I'm not going to go
Right.
ahead and force her into college in general. I'm going to have the conversation where you have options. You choose whether you want to go to college or not. But if you don't, what is your plan? Not even a plan B. What is your plan? What is it that you want to do? What is it that you love to do? And there's many things that we can actually pick up along the way while they're growing. If you see that they draw pretty damn well, you're gonna say, man, look, they're pretty creative. If you see that, um, like I can give a perfect example. Liani, whenever she's playing with her toys, she's over here um, drawing, right? She'll make the dress for Elsa. She'll make the dress for Anna just off of a piece of paper. Like she'll literally draw it. She'll end up cutting it. She'll get tape and she puts it over the dolls. What does that tell you? Her mind is taking her. Her creativity is just up there, and it continues to build. And you just gotta let them be. You never know what comes from it. Maybe she wants to start her own brand. Maybe she wants to like get into customization, right? Of clothing, whatever it is. Um, but there's a lot of discoveries that they make along the way, and I feel like it's okay. We have to limit our children, but not to that extent. As long as it's not bad influence, it's not putting your child's at risk in any way.
Right.
I feel like just give them the space, give them the opportunity to see what's out there, to see what other people are doing, because I feel like, come on, what if they change your life around? You know?
Yep. And then
So,
you can ask God for direction, you know, if this
of
is what it
course.
is, um, help me to have an experience that would be just as impactful, you know?
Hmm.
It doesn't, you know, remember that God doesn't call us to be cookie cutter and we're all the same, do the same thing. Um, Different experiences can have similar impacts because everybody's different and everybody's calling is different. Everybody's purpose is different. Everybody's journey is different. The way that he wants to bless you, you know,
Yep.
for example, what does it matter if I bless you, if God allows me to financially bless you with a Maserati? but you're not into cars.
Yep.
You're going to look at it like, okay, what I'm going to do with this? But I could send you to, what you call it? I could go ahead and send you to a fine restaurant for a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of the cost because you like steak. And I take you to a great steakhouse. You could easily be more appreciative of that great steakhouse because you had an amazing experience at a particular restaurant than you would receive with a vehicle that costs so much, but you don't like cars. And in fact, you kind of feel like that's a burden on you now. You know what I'm saying? Some people, you know, are different. Somebody, you know, could want could be a person that loves to take trips. But why are you going to buy a trip for somebody that hates to take trips? You know, you could send somebody to Europe, but their idea of a great trip is camping. I mean, you know, fraction of the cost. Again, I mean, God has something different for everybody, and the impact can be just as significant. You know, but that could lead you to go and say, God, I want to give somebody an experience. Can you give, like, I want them to be able to experience the same joy that these people seem to have experienced with this. Give me ideas, give me provision, give me the ability, maybe not to go to that degree in terms of how it appears, but for it to have the same impact, if not more impactful, because you're giving me the unique way to bless this person, to bless this child, to bless my family. You know what I'm saying? It's all perspective. And we all get different tools. We all get different resources. And a lot of the reason why we are where we are is because our perspective is not where it needs to be. You know, and perspectives need to shift.
I like the fact that you mentioned that because it's something that ran through my mind right before you said it. Is switching our focus. Sometimes our focus aren't really in the right place. You know, sometimes we want to be blessed for the wrong things. That itself says it all. Sometimes,
Absolutely.
I'm going to repeat that again. Sometimes we want to be blessed for the wrong things. You know, and there's many times where we're not blessed because that's exactly what God knows, and He doesn't want us to go there because it's just gonna get a lot worse, so much worse.
It's not going to be a blessing. It's going to be a detriment.
Yeah, because your priorities aren't straight. You know, your intent to be blessed is really not all there, and sometimes we're actually saved by not being blessed. You have to accept those doors that are closed, that are shut. It doesn't mean that you don't have any more doors that are going to open or that are open, but you have to continue to walk that hall. Continue to walk that hall. You know what? This is not for me. Let me go ahead and move on to the next. Which is, again, going back to how I mentioned, when I see other families or other people and you know, they have level of success or they do certain things that I've been unable to do, I look at it as fuel. The first question is, for a lot of people, the first question might be, why them and not me? My question is different. What it is that I have to do to get there? You know, what it is that I have to do to have that financial freedom? What it is that I have to do? We don't know what they've gone through. You know, there's people that suffered, and not so much that they suffered in silence. It's just that they never made their problems public, right? But if you have a simple conversation with them, they might put you on game.
Mm-hmm.
They
or
might
you don't
put
know
you on.
or you don't know the seeds that they've sown
Yeah,
to get there.
exactly.
You
Exactly.
know, you have no clue, or what they sacrificed to get there, which actually behind the scenes you don't realize that they're actually not blessed. It appears like a blessing, but the sacrifice that was given, because maybe it wasn't exactly what God had wanted for them, they gave up a lot to get that. And behind the scenes, they got to where they thought they wanted to be, but in reality, it's not where God wanted them to be. and they're not happy. I mean, a lot of people, the same way that that Penn shared, you know, people not being vocal, you know, a lot of people are not vocal as grown-ups
Mm-hmm.
and put on a charade. You know, they put on a face. It's a mask
Mm-hmm.
behind the scenes.
Yeah.
There's no happiness there, you know.
You know, now that you bring that up, it's funny because I can even admit something, man. In the past, I've always wanted to paint this image that life is good, life is perfect, right? I don't go through anything. And even when I go through something, I overcome it. And that image that I used to put is the reason why a lot of my success or a lot of things in my journey has been delayed or stunned because of the image that I would put up instead of embracing the struggle, instead of accepting this is what life is about, going through it.
And you know why, right?
Go ahead.
It's very simple. How can God be glorified if you're never presenting that you're going through something that he took you out of?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to repeat that one more time.
Yep.
How can God be glorified if you are trying to mask that you're going through something
Mm-hmm.
that he is taking you out of? Whether he gives you the ability to do it, whether he gives you the provision to do it, which he does, whether he gives you the knowledge to do it, whether he just, as he can do sometimes when he wants to, miraculously just take you out of the situation. Here's this blessing that you weren't expecting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a miraculous blessing. Here's what you need. Other times it's, I'm giving you the ability, the knowledge, the know-how, all these different things so that you can do it, because my blessing isn't allowing you to be able to do it, you know, because I give you
Yeah.
the ability to do it. A lot of times we hide what's going on. Nobody sees the struggle, and he never gets the glory. He never gets the
Mm-hmm.
glory.
Yep. And there was a lot of things that I was trying to do on my own. There was a lot of things like I've mentioned in the past, you know, one of my biggest stresses, you know, many out of many, but was the student loans, right? And it's like, oh, if God was really gonna do something about it, I wouldn't have this debt. You know what I mean? Like that's the thought that I had before. But then I obviously learned the hard way. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Your effort, along with His blessings, is how you get out of your problems. I used to focus so much on the issues, and I've had the solutions right in front of me that I was just blind to it. I
You know
couldn't see
why?
the blessings on
Because,
the other side.
yeah, because we're trying to tell God that we know how he's going to fix the problem,
Yeah, because it's how we want it, when we
how we
want it,
want it, and when we want
and
it.
when we want it, and that's not how it works. That's not
Yep.
how it works. And once you unlock that and you notice, you start accepting life and the timing in general of everything, of everything, which is why when people say, don't focus on the problem, focus on the solution, you're removing a lot of worry. I feel like focusing on the problems is causing blindness in many right now. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Everyone keep that in mind.
He can give you, or he does give us the ability. And a lot of times it's just a matter of listening. But the problem is that we're not listening. Unfortunately, a lot of times, even when we go to God and we say, take me out of this issue, I need the ideas, I need the provision, I need X, Y, Z. Unfortunately, a lot of times the conversation is one way. We walk into the room, God, I need blah, 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 blah. Help me with blah, 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 blah. And then you out. where did you spend the time for the answer? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you know what
Yep.
I'm saying? I mean,
That's right.
just imagine if we were having this conversation. Y'all need this help getting this live up or editing this video because I want to accomplish this and this and this. I want it to be a short video. I want it to have these graphics. I want it to have this text. I want it to have this. I want it to have that. And here you are giving me the laundry list. And then you hit end on the call. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
how was I ever supposed to give you the input? You know what I'm saying? But unfortunately, that's what a lot of us are doing.
Stay aware and stay woke at all times.
Absolutely.
At all times.
Ask for that direction. Ask God for that
Yeah.
direction. Believe me, He equips us a lot of times with what we need. And it's just a matter of asking Him on how to use the tools that He's given us. Because a lot of times the tools are there. Or asking, what tools do you want to give me? Where do I go for it? What do you want me to do? It's crazy, bro. It's crazy.
Big time, man. I want everyone to drop a heart in the chat if you felt today's topic, today's messages. By the way, when I was listening in regarding the iPad, the music, eventually we're going to have an episode that we want to focus speaking on the music and the influence that it has. I think that's very, very important, whether it's youth or adults. It does affect all of us.
I think both need to. Everybody needs to receive with that.
Yeah. And you know
because
what?
There's a lot.
There's a guest that I want to go ahead and bring in, and it's a process. It's a process. So I'm hoping that I can get a hold of this person, and I'm sure we will. I'm sure we will. One who has a lot of knowledge, and who's into these topics and can actually break it down the way we do in details, you know, not just to put you onto the whole music industry, but he'll even like break it down in details as to how we are affected by it and why there's been so much happening in the past year, school shootings, depression, anxiety, just in general. He's definitely the perfect person to have on for it along with us. So definitely let's pray on that.
Definitely.
Because that's going to help us all, to be honest.
We want to give thanks as well. I saw that Jal Penn went ahead and purchased the badge. We always support.
Yes.
I mean, we always appreciate the support with the badges. Just remember, if you are on Instagram, if you are watching us on Instagram, you always do have the opportunity to purchase a badge on Instagram. At some point when we go, as we gain more traction on YouTube, there will be the option there as well. I think on their case, it's a little button that says thanks. We're not quite there yet to be able to have that for you guys that are watching on YouTube. But if you do watch on Instagram, we appreciate the badges. We appreciate the love and the support with the badges. It is a blessing to be able to have that. So for not just her, but anybody who's purchased a badge in the past, we give you thanks for that as well.
For sure. Appreciate that.
Truly.
Yeah, we're super grateful, super grateful. We're working really hard to continue to grow the platform, to do so much more. And once again, I appreciate everyone who supports us with or without the badges. I appreciate the fact that you take the time to join us on the live.
Definitely.
For those who take the time to like share the videos, even the post. Don't forget, we do upload the live video shortly after it ends on YouTube. We're working really hard on coming up with a name. It's been quite a process, but we're getting there.
Again, you know, we could choose a bunch of names at random, but we want it to be something that God is giving us.
Very unique. Yeah.
He the same way that he told us to move forward with this platform, because it was something that was needed for the time, and many of you have been blessed by it. You know, we've seen a number of different lives that have been changed by the topics that we brought up. You know, that God has given us, the conversations that we've had. We know that we were obedient in what God has done, and that's why He's blessed this platform, us on this platform, the way He has. But we don't want to, go and do any of this on our own, which is why the name is not finalized. We know that He's coming up with that soon. We're expectant. There's a lot, a lot that we will share with you guys here in the coming months. Believe me, that He's doing. Just waiting on His direction, His timing for everything. But a lot is coming, and we know that He's going to show out. This is not about us. This is about Him showing out and changing your lives so that you can get to know Him more. He's going to be glorified in that, and we're thankful. That's going to be a light to many that need to see it. So God bless each and every one of you that are joining us tonight. Really, again, if you're supporting with the badge, that's great. But just your very presence to be here, to share, to comment, to let us know that your lives are changing, are changing and everything like that. The testimonies that we see, the trust that many of you have given us in private to ask for direction, to ask for prayer, all that kind of stuff. It truly is a blessing to see the end result of that, because that means that God has trusted us for this and He's working in your lives. So for us to see the change there, that's worth more than any badge. That's worth more than any amount of money, because we're seeing lives transformed. That He's allowing, He's allowing us to reach out to you so that He can touch your life and transform it, and that's really a blessing. So we just give you thanks for being with us. Honestly,
Definitely. I second that for sure. And everyone who does feel like your life has changed, the topics that we've been discussing, if you've been impacted by it, please drop a heart in the chat. Please drop a heart. I can go ahead and do the same. It's been really major.
And be ready for a turnaround. Just feel the need. The Holy Spirit telling me, be ready for a turnaround. A season of change is coming for many of you. I know He has shown me that. For me, I'm holding on to that. Even if I don't see it, I'm holding on to it. I know the season is changing for many. Right now is a time in which many probably don't see. It's difficult to see that there's something great coming in the horizon. But God is not asking you to see it. God is asking you to believe it. And I believe it for myself. And he's having me share that with you tonight, because there is a change in season coming for many of you in different areas of your life. So I know when that comes for me, bro, the testimony is going to be real. It's going to be real detailed, real long, so that he can get all the glory that he deserves in that. And I hope that as you start to receive that, you'll do the same.
And that goes for everyone on YouTube as well, on Facebook, because I know I'm not able to see the chat, but blessings, and definitely grateful for you all who are watching. While we just give it a few seconds to see if there's anything anyone wants to go ahead and drop in the anonymous with the question mark, or anyone who wants to go ahead and join on the video. Don't forget, we're on every week, every Thursday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, and 5:30 p.m. Pacific Time, West Coast. See, we didn't miss any messages either. All right, sounds good. Well, this is it for today. Once again, really appreciate you all. Don't forget, we have been notifying everyone via story and reels. We post now the reminders on both stories and posts on our profile. And you'll also see the scheduled live under my profile. All you have to do is click and you'll receive the reminder. You'll receive the reminder, I believe, is 2 days before the live and the day of. And the day of.
And I think one more time, I believe 15 minutes before. So
perfect.
It's just a great tool if you wanted to make sure to be connected. Great way for you to make sure that you're connected, and that way you don't miss out. And it gives you an opportunity to be able to be ready to share as well.
For sure, for sure. And Carol, thank you so much. God bless you as well. God bless everyone who connected with us tonight. And for those who are watching us on YouTube, the recorded session, please don't forget to share the video. We appreciate everyone who comments and shares. Share the video with someone who may need to receive a good message. And just remember, your situation is not permanent. Everything that you may be thinking or dealing with right now is temporary. And you have to make sure of that.
Absolutely.
Patience is a virtue, and faith is the substance. Hope everyone has a great night, a good night, and a great and blessed week. Stay safe out there.
God bless you guys.